By now, the young man, left all alone in the parlor, decided to go to the kitchen to find out what was keeping everyone so long. Well, he was shocked to see 3 people grieving and wringing their hands and looking at the ceiling with eyes filled with bitter tears. What on earth is the matter? What has overcome you?
You mean you don't see? It's as plain as can be. We, in our carelessness, almost killed our poor little grandson, Timmy, which I would surely call the little boy born to you and our daughter if you should marry, which you certainly shall not because of the day the ceiling fell on him, and it was all our fault.
Well, that makes no sense at all.
Oh, yes, it does. The crack is going to grow and grow and grow until the whole ceiling comes cracking right down on the poor little innocent child.
But there is no child. There is no marriage yet. I think that's the silliest thing I ever heard. Well, I'm leaving you 3 people this minute. I'm going around the world, and if I meet 3 other people as silly as you, I might come back for Penelope. Until then, goodbye. Well, the young man traveled near and far, looking for 3 people who were as silly as Penelope's family. Finally, one day, he came upon a man who was standing behind a horse. The man was scratching his head and mumbling and seemed to be in quite a weird state. Oh, what's the matter? Asked the young man politely.
Lost my darn horse. That's what's the matter. Best horse I ever had, too.
You haven't lost your horse. He's right here behind you.
Oh, that? That ain't no horse. Don't know what it is, but it ain't no horse. Nope. My old Dan had a long, beautiful neck and a big, powerful head with ears perked up just so, and big, sorrowful eyes. That thing ain't got no head, let alone neck. Some kind of anteater, I guess, or a sick elephant, maybe. Ugly critter, all nose and no eyes and ears.
Come with me, said the young man, and he led the confused fellow around to the front of the horse.
Well, there's old Dan. See what I tell you, them eyes, them ears, that's old Dan. I don't know where you've been, boy, but I'm glad you're back. Just don't go hanging around that ugly, no-headed critter no more.
And he led the horse away. I guess I found at least one person sillier than the others, thought the young man, and he went on his way. After several days, the young man came upon a peculiar-looking house. There was an old woman leaning in the window, and he noticed that the house had no doors. He went over to the old woman and said politely, excuse me, I couldn't help noticing that your house doesn't have any doors. Why is that?
Well, it's like this, sonny. Years back, I started building all this house. Built my sitting room first, just like I liked, and I said to myself then, honey, if you put a door in this sitting room, somebody could walk in on you when you're sitting. That really not so good, so I said I'd just put the door somewhere else. Well, I built my bedroom next, and goodness knows I didn't want nobody walking in on me asleep, so I decided the door had to be somewhere else. Next came the kitchen, and while I was building the kitchen, I said to myself, honey, somebody could walk right in on you while you're cooking. All your cakes could fall, bugs get in, never can tell what would happen with the kitchen. So I decided to put the door somewhere else. Well, last I put in my bathroom. Well, anybody knows you don't want people walking in on you while you're taking a bath, so there you have it. There just ain't no place to put a door in a house if you think about it now, is there?
But how do you go in and out? Asked the young man.
Don't have to. Send my children.
Well, where are they?
Just had the baths, and they're all in the dryer.
With that, the young man ran from the house. He knew he had found another sillier than the others, and he worried about what he might find next. Many months passed, and nothing silly or unusual happened. The young man decided he had met all the silly people of the world and might just as well go home. On his way home, he noticed an old man sitting beside the road. The man was looking at him while he passed, and just as he passed, he thought he heard the old man say,
That's once.
Well, the young man was confused by this, so after he'd gone a few steps, he turned and walked past the old man again. This time, as he passed the old man, he was certain he heard the old man say,
That's twice.
Well, the young man was so curious that he turned around and passed the old man again, and this time the old man definitely said,
That's 3 times.
What do you mean that's 3 times?
Well, that's how many times it took you to pass before you stopped. It asks me what I'm doing.
Well, what are you doing?
Promise not to tell.
Oh, yes, I promise.
I'm watching this road. You see, it's supposed to go to Weymouth Downs.
It does go to Weymouth Downs.
Wrong.
What do you mean, wrong? Of course it goes to Weymouth Downs.
Does not. Stays right here. I've watched it for years now, and it hasn't gone anywhere. Been right here, between that tree and me.
But you don't understand.
Of course, I understand. You don't understand. Nobody understands. Everybody talks about things that just not so. Have you ever seen a kitchen sink? No. Have you ever seen a porch swing? No. Where does your lap go when you stand up? Answer that and I'll ask you another. Ever heard a tree bark, beanstalk, a napkin ring, the grass root, the chimney sweep? No, no. Most of what people talk about's just not possible. So I'll just keep watching this road. And if it ever goes anywhere, or that tree leaves, or the corn stalks off, or the meal runs, the horse flies, or the moon rocks, I'll be the first to know.
But by this time, the young man was no longer listening. He had already turned for home. He had decided that Penelope wasn't so silly after all.
Well, do you suppose the young man ever got married? What an adventure he had. Imagine, from seeing a crack in the ceiling, imagining a baby, and then imagining a baby getting hurt. And the young man hadn't even asked the girl to marry him yet. That really was silly, wasn't it? Well, why don't we use our imaginations for a minute? What else could she have thought while she was staring up at that crack in the ceiling? What would you imagine? What if she imagined that living behind that crack in the ceiling was a giraffe? All the giraffe could see from that little crack was what looked like a kitchen, but to him, it was the whole world. And one morning, the girl comes down to have breakfast, and just as she's about to take a bite of food, she hears a creak, and then a louder creak, and then a crack, and then a boom, and there stands a fully grown giraffe. And she looks up and says, "What are you doing here?" And he looks around and says, "Ooh, it's a small world, isn't it?" Now that is silly.